The third item that you're going to need for producing music inside of a computer is a MIDI controller. Now, here we go with the jargon, okay? So MIDI has a very specific meaning. I'm not going to go over it yet. We're just going to use it as a placeholder. So MIDI controller is basically a keyboard or a pad device that you can use to get musical note data into your computer and trigger a virtual instrument. There's so many different kinds of MIDI controllers out there, from the tiniest to the largest, heaviest, 88 key piano controllers. I can recommend a lot. I've had a lot of different keyboards. I've finally settled on this one right here, at least for now. On the smaller side of MIDI controller keyboards, there is anywhere from 25 to 37 keys. Those are the smaller ones. They're also the cheapest. I can recommend the Native Instruments M32. Great little keyboard. I can also recommend the Akai Professional MPK Mini. It has 25 keys and it also has drum pads built into the top. Both great controllers on the small side. Mid-sized, I would say, is around 49 keys to 61 keys. The best options in this realm, I would say, are the Complete Control series, the S series and the A series. The A series are a little bit more stripped down. The S series a little more complex and integrate better with Native Instruments software, which we'll go over later. Also, I can recommend the Arturia Keylab keyboards and the Nectar Panoramas. There's other brands out there. Look at the reviews and make your best bet. Also remember to keep that vibe. You want something that you like having in your studio. So this back here, this is Native Instruments Machine. I use it all the time to make beats. There's other versions of pad controllers out there. None that I've used, honestly. I used the Machine most of the time. There's also a Machine Micro, which is a good option for a cheaper solution for playing drums. Akai and other brands have their own versions of pad controllers. There's also pad controllers that you can play with sticks. These are more of like finger pad drums. If you're a drummer, that might be more useful to you, so you have something that's a little more familiar and a real playing surface that you can use drumsticks on. On the larger side of MIDI keyboard controllers, we have the full 88 key, fully weighted keyboard controllers for pianists, essentially. I can highly recommend the Yamaha P45 or the P125A. They're very, very, like, criminally cheap, like a very, very reasonably priced keyboards. They have great action for pianists. In addition to being a MIDI controller, something you can plug into a computer and trigger notes inside of a computer, they also have built-in sounds like a piano, harpsichord, organ, just for some real basic stuff, but they can be used without a computer, which, if you're going to spend money on a large keyboard, once you get past a certain price point, it does seem kind of silly to pay for a keyboard that doesn't have any sounds built in. I can completely understand if people don't want to buy something for a lot of money that doesn't have that ability. That can be used at a live show or anywhere else. I would say those two Yamahas are the best options. There's lots of more expensive stuff you can buy. I don't think they're necessary unless you really just have a bunch of cash to dump. One really important thing before I wrap up the discussion about keyboard controllers is that if you already have a keyboard that maybe you use in a live setting, maybe you use to practice, you probably don't need a MIDI controller. In fact, keyboards since the 80s have pretty much had MIDI built into them. That's when that format was established. You might just be able to use something that you already have and save yourself a boatload of cash. Even if it's an older type of keyboard and doesn't have any USB on it, it might have something called a MIDI port, which looks like this. And if you have an interface with MIDI ports, you can get that data right out of that keyboard into your computer, and you don't have to spend another dime. So just by buying that interface that has MIDI inputs, make sure it does, you're off to the races. You don't need a MIDI controller. Congratulations.